Well, hey there, friends. I am having kind of a quiet day. I'm having a gin and tonic. Cheers. And I'm trying to distract myself from the world right now. So, this isn't a tutorial in any way, shape, or form. What I thought I would do is share with you some recent tarot acquisitions. And by recent, I really mean the last sort of 6 months or so. But, you know, Um, I find these videos that other people do really relaxing, so I thought I would share. So what I'm going to share with you is just a couple of things I've spent my tarot allowance on in the past few weeks. The first thing, actually, I mentioned this. I mentioned almost all of these things in other videos, but I thought it would be fun to put them all together and kind of relaxing. Hopefully, it's relaxing to watch, but it'll definitely be relaxing to do. So the first thing I bought are these silk scarves. I got them on Amazon. This is just like a red and gray paisley, and then the one underneath it's just gray. It's like a charcoal gray. I when I started reading, of course, like most folks, I learned that silk, is the right fabric for wrapping your cards in and reading on. I don't wrap my cards in anything anymore unless I have bags for them. But I don't know, sometimes I like to go back to my early days. And I don't know. I found these on Amazon. They were $15 each. And they're nice. Silk is not the easiest sort of reading cloth because it's so light. And it's easy to damage, but it is pretty, and boy does it catch the light beautifully. I mean, I don't know if you can sort of see how shiny it is. But it looks nice when I do Instagram pictures and stuff too. I'll leave my Instagram name. My Instagram name is actually my real name. I started reading under Tom Benjamin years ago because I didn't want anyone to know I was reading, and now I kind of don't care. Anyway, my Instagram name is ben.jolivet, and I'll link if you want to follow me. So those are things I bought. The next thing I'm going to show you is not tarot related, but I mentioned this in another. It has a section that relates to tarot. This is a new book by a writer I had just discovered, and I really like his work. His name is J.W. Oker, and he's got a blog called Odd Things I've Seen, or Otis for an acronym. And he's a really funny, witty. He reminds me a little bit of Sarah Vowell in the way he writes, but what he did was he moved his family, his wife and his two kids, to Salem, Massachusetts for the month of October last year, and he wrote about Halloween in Salem. And Salem is very close to me. It's about 45 minutes to an hour from where I live. There's not a whole lot to look at in here, but it's a fun read. I liked it a lot. He's also really cute. Not that matters, but anyway. It's a good book. He has a section where he goes and visits a bunch of tarot readers, and that was the section that prompted one of my most recent videos about specificity. Because while his attitude is generally really sort of supportive, the readings he has are not, from his point of view, all that useful, and that made me want to address that issue because I've had that too. So not tarot related, and the Halloween season is closed now, but it's a fun book. If you like travel writing, if you like kind of Jon Stewart-y senses of humor, Sarah Vowell kind of sense of humor, if you like history, then you might like this book. And you can check out his blog too. He goes to basically every kind of spooky site or weird site that he can find, and he's a lot of fun to read. And he's got a fun voice. So I read that on the plane home recently when I was traveling. Another thing I read, everything else here is tarot related, is Tarot Coupling by Gina Thies. I followed her on Facebook for a long time, and I knew that this book has been out for a while, and I just hadn't gotten around to reading it, but I'm glad that I did. I actually think this book could be twice or three times as long as it is, because what I think is really valuable about this book, the way that this book works is that it goes into some general theories about relationship readings, and there's a little bit of kind of psychology in here, but she talks about reading on difficult topics like infidelity. She gives you tips for pitfalls and dealing with challenging issues. I'm trying to find it here too. She also talks about the stages of relationships. Am I gonna find it? Yes. And how knowing the stage of a relationship that you're reading for, whether it's acquaintance, build up, continuation, deterioration, and end, can help you in the kinds of readings that you do. So it's really interesting. And then she goes through this is the part of the book that I wish, this takes up about half of the book, which is that she goes through each major card, gives us the esoteric information, a general commentary, and then some interesting keywords for each of the majors that relate to relationships and personality types. And then she goes through a relationship specific interpretation, and then each of the relationship stages, new, established, expanded awareness, and deteriorating. She talks about how this card can relate to that, and then also sort of some date night suggestions for each card. So for this is the star. She talks about rock star as a date movie, visiting a planetarium or a concert, and then compatible cards. The minors get a little bit less attention as they usually do, but similar. I've reached a point in my tarot reading where I'm not super interested, and I hate that. I feel this way now, because it used to be the thing I loved most, but I'm not super interested in reading like card descriptions at this point. That said, there's a lot of good stuff in here, and I hope she writes a follow-up book, because I think there's more to say about relationship reading. I mean, bottom line, when you're reading for other people, more than half of the readings you're going to do are about relationships, and so it's one of the least covered areas. So Tarot Coupling by Gina G. Thies is really good, and she's on Facebook. She has a tarot coupling Facebook group that you can join. So I really liked this book. I read it in about a day, and I'll probably go back and revisit bunches of it. This is a book I haven't finished reading yet, but I'm really enjoying it. It's called Tarot and Psychology. This is not a new book. I think this came out in 2000. And it was actually in Gina Thies' book that I figured this out, or discovered this book. When did this come out? I think it was 2000. Yes. This is actually really written for practitioners, for therapists. But it's interesting just from a purely, curiosity standpoint. But I think that there's stuff in here, quotes I rarely write in tarot books for some reason, but there are things in here that I keep underlining. He says, tarot captures the heartbeat of experience. There's quotes that have really, tarot is a game in as much as life is a game, unfolding through a process of choices, strategies, random events, discoveries, victories, and defeats. Conventional games are often effective tools of learning, which is something that's actually been really important in my corporate work, because one of the things that I do, one of the parts of my job that's really, huge is instructional design. I write and design learning experiences for a corporation, and game design is big in learning. So he says, conventional games are effective tools of learning and are themselves no strangers to the serious enterprise of counseling and psychotherapy practice. So it sort of talks about how games, tarot as a game is kind of, it makes sense. In tarot, the game is your life as a whole, or stated more subjectively, the game is yourself. And there's a lot of good stuff in here. I just sent this actually to Chris, one of the folks I email frequently or respond to. But he has a revised Celtic crossbred that I really like. So anyway, I'm enjoying Tarot and Psychology by Arthur Rosengarten, PhD. So you can check that out. So that's that for books. I have one Oracle deck that I have not worked with too much. This is not... Again, nothing I'm about to show you is revolutionary. There are people out there who have done reviews of this stuff. I'm just sharing with you what I've been spending my money on and working with, and what I'll probably be working with this winter. This is the Sacred Symbols for Divination and Meditation by Marcella Kroll. And she's on Instagram. And I think she just did the last printing of this deck, if I'm not mistaken. So it's still available if you can get your hands on it. I don't have a lot of Oracle decks that I actually have 3 or 4. I've got this. I've got the Wisdom of the Oracle, Tira Marchetti's Oracle deck. I've got a Lenormand deck, also Tira Marchetti's Lenormand deck. And I've got the original German Kipper cards, which I don't have any relationship with because I just bought them because I liked the art. Anyway, I like the art in this too. It's very simple, but it's pretty. And this is definitely a deck where you need the little book that comes with it. I asked her recently on Instagram whether, because she does an in-person class, I like that, whether she was ever going to do an online class, and she said that she had and was going to do more. And that there would be something, that you could take whenever. So, it's completely unusual, and it's not necessarily something I can read intuitively, but, I like it. Let's just sort of look at one quickly here. What I like about it is that, it is so simple. There's not a lot of, they're not complicated images or concepts. It also shuffles really well for a deck that has kind of an unusual size. I like the size a lot. So if we draw a card, transmute. So you really need to draw your card and then look into the book. There is no table of contents, but it's alphabetical. So what it says here, transmute. The snake is a powerful symbol of transmutation. Accept its gifts of shedding the old ways and the ability to make magic by transmuting its energy into something new. Meditate on this symbol when you need some assistance in changing the energy in your life. Not to be taken lightly, as this is heavy magic. And then it talks about the symbol. The snake is a totem. The snake totem represents our ability to let go of the old by shedding its skin and allowing constant evolution. So what this suggests is that this is a time to really shed what's old and bring new life and a new sort of rawness, a new experience to the table. So I think that that's interesting. So this is the Sacred Symbols deck, and I like it. I have not worked with it too much. A few months ago, I started getting into Oracle decks because at a certain point I kind of felt like I was hampered by the tarot's structure. And then once I started working with Oracle decks, I missed tarot structure. So there you go. This is a deck that is not... like I said, none of this is new. This is the Raven's Prophecy Tarot. I don't like the title of this deck because it just sounds a little it just sounds marketing-y. Like anytime prophecy shows up in a deck's name, I get a little cranky about it. But I do like the art in this deck, and despite the title, I think it's really beautiful. I trimmed this deck. I am not a big trimmer of decks. And this is one of the most difficult decks I've ever trimmed because the borders, it didn't have traditional borders. This orange extended all the way around, but they weren't even. And then you've probably seen this deck if you've seen it elsewhere. When you do trim it, there's an orange border on the outside that gets cut on 3 of the 4 sides-ish. So you have the choice to kind of cut around the border and skew the picture, or cut around the picture and skew the border. So what I did when I trimmed it was I actually went with the picture because I like the pictures so much. I didn't want to damage them in any way. I just kind of decided to embrace the messiness of it. Can you see this? You kind of can. And I used a Sharpie to kind of build a nest around the suits on the back. So that, and I just said, you know what, they're all gonna look weird, but it's gonna get rid of the orange border, and whatever, like, just embrace the mess of it, because, you know, as anyone knows who trims decks, when you trim a deck, you are making a mess of it in a way. But I do have to agree, it looks good, and it doesn't seem to affect the shuffling at all. The art in this deck is really unusual. There's a lot of hands. There's a lot of feathers and candles. I really like it. I have not worked with this too much. I literally got it as an impulse. Again, I love this hermit. This is not traditionally Rider-Waite in any way. See, there's your 5 of coins. You get a sense of leaving and losing and being without, but you don't have the church and the people, you know, with the crutch outside in the snow. You get this sort of sense of dying flora. But there's something about these images of hands and the star. I mean, it looks like Van Gogh. It's beautiful. So I really like this. Again, I haven't worked with it too much. It does look sort of Halloweenish. But I like it, and it looks good in spreads, especially now that it's trimmed. You know, it just looks cool. So I like this a lot. I have not worked with it much. I feel like I need to get to know it a little bit. This I did include in a video. This is the Heart and Hands Tarot. It comes delivered in this black sort of velveteen bag. It's very tight in there, but it does come out. It comes with a sort of a handmade spreadsheet with the Celtic cross on the back, and card meanings. This is the title card. It's a big pack of cards. I mean, it just to compare, what's something more normal? I mean, this is, so I'll look at this in a sec, but this is the Fountain Tarot, and it's bigger than the box, you know, width and height. So it is hard to shuffle. There's no doubt about it. Shuffling it, you literally can't. I mean, I have small hands for a guy, but you can't sort of get your hands around it the normal way, and it doesn't riffle shuffle very well. Because of that. See how this keeps bunching up? This is why silk is kind of an annoying fabric to use as a reading cloth. So, but the artwork is so pretty. It's really beautiful. There is a lot of sort of, this looks like John Lennon, this looks like Cher. If you're a musical theater nerd, you're going to recognize this as the poster for the original production of Follies or Godspell. So there are sort of striking resemblances, but the art is so bold, and for a black and white deck, it still manages to be really multicultural. It's busy, you know what I mean? This isn't subtle art, but it's really pretty. I love it. This, this is the tower. Boy, this is a hard tower for me to look at for obvious reasons, but it definitely makes its point. So this is a independently published. Almost everything I'm showing you deck wise, except for the Raven's Prophecy, which is Llewellyn, is independent. That's been my big focus right now. Anyway, I haven't worked with this one either because it is so large. I have sort of had a hard time shuffling it and working with it, but it does, I used it in a video recently because it is so large that it shows up really well. But to do even my normal general spread, you can see, this reminds me of Tim Gunn from Project Runway. There's some cards in the Fountain Tarot, too, that remind me of people I know or celebrities. It does look kind of dope, though. I mean, not kind of. It's pretty great. This is a beautiful Ace of Pentacles. The art is stunning, and I love the backs, and I never used to like black and white decks, but I'm really digging them right now. So that's the Heart and Hands Tarot, an indie deck. You can get it on Etsy. It's not expensive for an indie deck, in my opinion. And I really like it, and it deserves some attention. I think it will be controversial because it's so large. But, it's funny how we complain about this stuff, because this deck is big, and it's hard to hold. I've said for years that I wish the Shadowscapes Tarot were larger, and this is sort of the size it should be. And I would probably use that deck more if it were this size. So, we're never happy. We're impossible to please. That's that. This deck is the Circo Tarot, which I think is out of print. It came in this bag. This I got in a trade with one of you, and I'm really glad that I did. I don't normally trade decks, because I'm trying to downsize decks I don't use. This I used in a reading the other day, too. It's a very gentle... This reminds me sort of the Ellis deck, which I don't use enough, just with sort of gentler shapes. The titles on the cards are really tiny. But it's pretty. I got everything all reversed the other day when I was making a video. Kind of Amelia Earhart-esque. It's a very, female-centered deck, which is fine. That's great. I'm interested in decks right now that don't have people at all. The backs are cool. They've got, a silvered foil to them. So this is pretty. I like this. Again, I haven't had much time to work with it, but I like it. Evidently, this bag glows in the dark. I have not tested that yet. So that is that. Putting that away. I'm really interested in, I have to say, independently published decks for a couple of reasons. One is that there's just little, like, the book here is bound with thread. Can you see that? It's little things like that, but also the quality of independently published decks is off the hook. It's better than what mainstream publishers are publishing right now. And I'm hoping that they learn from that. Because, I don't know. I don't know if I'm taking my sweater off. I don't know if they can afford to make the kinds of decks that self-published authors are making right now, but they're stunning. And an example of that is, I wasn't planning on doing this one next. This is the Fountain Tarot. Again, this is a really popular one. Oh, my God. I've never seen a deck packaged more beautifully. It just, again, it's got a magnetic thing here, attachment, beautiful, just beautiful deck. The book that it comes with is really good, and it's worth looking at. It's not long, but in terms of little white books, they have nice keywords in them. And I think that if you're looking for a deck, if you're only working with Rider-Waite and you are looking to expand, this is a great transitional deck because it's very Rider-Waite based, but it expands on those meanings and images. You're not going to necessarily like the way they expand on every image, but the book is a good one. And this is one of those decks. I'm going to do a video, I think, at some point soon on decks that have cards that have really taught me how to read that card. So the box is beautiful. The book is beautiful. The card, this is the card back. They have beautiful silvered edges. This is a beautifully produced deck. And again, there's a lot of reviews on it. The images are very soft. Some people feel like they're a little cold. They're not cold when you see them in person. They're very neutral. And the adaptations, some of them are just the lighting. The thing about this is they're hand-done oil paintings that are printed. The printing could be a little more saturated, but just the way that they're adapting images that we know, like the Three of Wands is not your Rider-Waite Three of Wands, but there's that same focus on energy and sort of making things happen. In this case, it's a more energetic effort, but this looks like my friend's husband. There's a lot of cards in this deck that are remind me of people I know or celebrities. This is the Two of Wands. This is a card I kind of struggled with because it's not how I view the Two of Wands, but I like it. If I had every copy of if every copy of every deck, or if every new deck just looked like Rider-Waite, then why? We don't learn anything from it. This is one of my favorite Hermit cards ever, and like I've talked about before, the Hermit is my card. It's not my birth card. The Chariot is my birth card, but anyway, I'm loving this deck. I've talked about it before. I have to be honest, though, I have a hard time reading with it, and that makes me sad. And I don't know if it's because I'm not spending enough time with it. There have been, in the course of my reading life, decks that I loved and just don't wind up reading with. The Line Strider is another one that I got, and I don't read with it, even though I love the art. This one I'm really trying to force myself to love because it's so beautiful, and the cardstock is really nice too. It looks so good in spreads, and it just, I don't know, it's so it's just beautiful. And as is well known, the artists who made this deck, a group of friends, are super nice if you email them and you have questions or whatnot. I adore this deck. I want this to be the deck, you know what I mean? So I need to spend more time with it. Another deck I got just about the same time as the Fountain Tarot is the Prism of Visions Tarot, which also comes packaged really beautifully. This is the second edition of this deck, but I think the first edition looks the same. Follow this artist on Instagram. His art is amazing. His name is James R. Eads, E-A-D-S. And I used this in a reading recently. See, what I meant to do beforehand, it comes in this beautiful box. Love it, love it, love it. It also has a book. I am not as in love with this book as I am with the Fountain Tarot book, because I don't... The meanings in this book have a more negative tenor than I like. What I meant to do beforehand and forgot was to separate out one of the suits, because the... Oh, gosh. The Chariot. Come on. Really like... this is not... So it's Rider-Waite Smith based, but it's not married to Rider. This is the one card I really don't like. It's the Fool. And he has a really negative interpretation of the Fool. You can't quite see it because it's such a dark card, but it's a stork about to get eaten by a bear. The Fool is one of my favorite cards, and I don't like this interpretation of it. But it's one of the few that I don't like. I'm going through really quickly because I want to show you one of my favorite death cards. If you haven't seen it before, one of my favorite lovers cards. This art is stunning, as fuck. Sorry for that. My God, tarot cards and tarot artists. I just want to, make out with them. I love them. I wish I had that in me to design them. What I'm trying to do very quickly is pull out all of the suit, because when you put them in order, they make one image. And I'm just going with wands right now, because that was like there's an extra card in this deck. In the first edition, it was a strawberry. I'm glad I have the second edition, because in the second edition, it's called the Gift. And that is more appropriate. The star card reminds me of Peter Pan in this deck. It's a really beautiful deck. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about it other than how beautiful it is. The Tower is another card I'm not in love with, because it doesn't sort of have the act of destruction in it. But I do like this. It actually reminds me of a J.B. Priestley play called An Inspector Calls, which, again, if you're a theater nerd, might interest you. Have I gone through all of them yet? Yes, I did. I don't think I got all of the wands out, but this may not have been the best suit to use either, but you'll kind of get the point. I'm just gonna, because it won't even fit if I do the whole suit, you can sort of see how the pictures connect. You can see it mostly with the 6 and 7 of wands, but does that change the reading? Not necessarily, but I just think it's great. Again, this is in print. It's beautiful. His artwork is beautiful, and you should get it. Is this a good transitional deck from Rider-Waite? Maybe. He makes some big departures, but if you're willing to go for the ride, I definitely think it's worth it. And it's beautiful. I wish I could have 6 copies. This deck I literally just got today. I bought it on Halloween, and I don't know how I feel about it yet. This is the Bohemian Gothic Tarot. It's another of those crazy super popular decks. Like the Prism of Visions that I just looked at, it's packaged beautifully. The backs, some of my favorite backs. It does come with an extra card. Like almost actually it comes with 2. It comes with a title card, and it comes with an extra Lover's card. This is the Lover's card that it comes with. Every single person I've known who reviews this, I've not known, but I've seen who reviewed this deck, takes this card out and uses the other Lover's card, as I have done. It comes with your little white book. I don't have any dark decks, so that's why I bought this, and I was watching Kelly from the Truth and Story, on her 12-hour marathon live chat, which I'd never done before. And I watched folks talk about this deck, and I thought, well, it's Halloween. It wasn't Halloween. It was the Saturday before Halloween. It's dark. It's cheeky, and it reminds me of photos actually of of dead people, which may not necessarily be the best endorsement of it, but it's supposed to be creepy. It's gothic, it's very Victorian, really cool devil. It's spooky, it's creepy, there's almost always something interesting happening in the background. This is the other Lover's card, which I prefer, and everyone else seems to too. I don't know how often I'll use this deck. Again, I need to spend time with it. It was definitely an impulse buy. It shuffles like no other deck. I mean, holy crap, does it shuffle well. It's now, see, I'm gonna mess it up because I'm talking about how great it is, but for a deck this large, it's very flexible. The cardstock feels so thin, but it doesn't feel frail. You know what I mean? And it shuffles so well. I don't know whether this will be a deck I use only at Halloween or maybe in the winter or just for people who want a little darkness. And, you know, it looks cool. It's a collage deck, but it's not... Maybe it's because it's supposed to be creepy. It doesn't bug me. I usually find collage decks really creepy. This one isn't bugging me. I don't know. That's how I feel about this deck right now. I don't know. I don't generally find myself drawn to theme decks. Oops. Because I just like things that are more all-purpose. But then so many... Geez. See, I told you I was going to make a mess. It does shuffle well, though. I don't know. I do love old horror movies and sort of gothic writing and whatnot. And this seems to have a lot of literary references. So I don't know. I'm going to spend time with it. But it just arrived today. I just looked at it a little while ago. It's cool. It was not the cheapest deck I own. But it came from Ireland. They used to come from Prague. They just moved to Ireland. And it took literally a week because I ordered it a week ago today. I've got one more to share with you, sort of. And this may make people roll their eyes because this is you know, this video's left, right, and sideways about this deck. But there's an interesting story to it. It's interesting to me anyway. I went on sort of a deck buying moratorium for maybe 3 or 4 years. I think the last deck I bought before this year was the Ellis Tarot, which was the 2nd edition, which I think I got shortly after the Shadowscapes Tarot. And I hadn't bought anything since. And in that time, obviously, a lot of decks came out. And I didn't feel like I was missing out until I started doing what I do when I get sort of stressed and bored sometimes, and I start watching deck reviews. And the first time I saw this deck, I'm going to be really honest, I felt like it was actually kind of a lazy deck, which I'm embarrassed to say because it's actually become the deck I use most. When I looked at it initially, I felt like the cards, the minors in particular, some of them were really exceptional and some of them were subpar when I looked at it. And I watched a bunch of videos on it, and I said, well, I'm not buying that deck. But it's an incredibly popular deck, and I kept watching videos about it, and I kept wanting it. And it's the Wild Unknown. This is where the story gets a little interesting right now. I'm going to say something kind of bitchy right now. So please forgive me. One of the reasons why I initially didn't want this deck is there's kind of, there's a little bit of a hipster attitude about this deck. Like, the number of people who claim to have found this deck before it was popular suggests that it's amazing that anyone ever bought it, because it never would. Like, everyone who has it found it before it was popular, and, then it became popular. Whatever. Everyone wants to be in at the beginning of something. You know what I mean? We all want to have been the one who discovers the cool thing. So I get it. But it does make me bristle a little bit. So I didn't get it, and I didn't get it. And then I decided I really wanted it. And that was the point where I realized that it was out of print, that it was about to become a mass market publication. Then the hipster in me really kicked in and decided I had to have it. and I had to have a version of it that wasn't the mass market edition. So I went looking, and I, of course knew that there were 2 editions, and again, the hipster in me did not want the 2nd edition. I wanted the 1st edition. It wasn't just because I have hipster tendencies. It's also because I liked the backs on the 1st edition better. This is a lesson, though, in why being kind of snotty about self-published decks can get you into some hot water, because not hot water necessarily, you just may end up getting not what you bargained for. So I went on eBay and I looked around and I found, shockingly, a really affordable copy of the 1st edition, with that great box. And I bought it. And what I did, stupidly, was I assumed that the person who was selling it didn't know what they had. Because who knows? And I bought it immediately and gleefully waited for it, and it was coming from the Ukraine. So it took a few weeks to get here. And then as soon as I got the package, I said, something's wrong. Now, I'd never really handled the deck before. So I didn't know for sure, but it just didn't feel right. And I people are like, oh, the box is so great. And yeah, it's an okay box, but I just thought it's not like that great quality that the, Wild Unknown is known for. You know what I mean? Like, they're known for these great rock solid boxes. But I opened the box, and it was hard to open. And it's really flimsy. And then I took the deck out of the box, and I said, what's interesting is that this box is known for... the deck is really known for the cardstock. And this cardstock is like... It's cardstock, you know what I mean? Like, it's... People sort of, like, write odes to the cardstock of the original edition of the Wild Unknown. It's also really known for being a really thick deck because the cardstock is so heavy. And I thought, this isn't the real deal. And it's not. And I realized that there were, of course, the box was flimsy. It doesn't have the ribbon that the deck is known for. It's thin. Even people talk about the paper of the original, little white book, whatever you want to call it. And this is just paper. And I realized that this was a bootleg edition of the Wild Unknown, which looks like it. You know what I mean? This looks like the first... Whoa. Do you see how I do these things? It looks how the first edition looks. But it's a reprint. It's a bootleg. And you can kind of tell because it's a little muddy. You can't probably see that in the video. But it's a bootleg. And exceptionally, I have to say, whoever did this, man, they put some time and energy into this, because this is not, when you get like a shitty deck on eBay, you can tell this is not, this isn't the quality that the original deck is known for, but it's pretty good quality. And actually, people who have the first deck, their only complaint about it is that it's so hard to shuffle, because this is, normal cardstock. It's actually really easy to shuffle. But I didn't want to have a bootleg. And in fact, I did report this to eBay, and I sent an email to the folks at Wild Unknown. And, it does focus. It does focus. It does shuffle well. Like, the thing is, if I had gotten this deck and I hadn't heard how amazing the cardstock was and all that, I would have been like, oh, this is great. You know what I mean? It shuffles well. The box is cool. But I didn't want a bootleg. So I went to a reputable dealer. Actually, this is upside down. See, I don't even know what to do with this now, because I feel like I can't give it away or sell it, because it's a bootleg, and I don't like to support, as a writer, I don't like to support copyright infringement. It is a curiosity, so I'll probably hang on to it, but I don't use it. And as much as I like the original backs, I don't mind the new ones. I thought I was really gonna, but I don't at all. I kind of quite like it. So I ordered from Little Red Tarot in the UK, and they got on it really fast. Again, when you order internationally, it takes a while, but this is not the edition I got from them, because that's part of the story. But you can tell, it's so weird, but you can tell the quality of paper the guide is so much better than the like janky, not janky, it's like just normal paper, but anyway, blah blah blah. So I get my deck and I'm like, finally get the second edition, and I am in love with the cardstock of this edition, and because it's a little bit thinner, it is easy to shuffle, and it does have this really special feel to it. And I don't see what I mean about silk, guys. Like, it's a little bit of a pain in the neck. This deck shuffles really well. The cardstock does feel awesome. I don't know what it is, but it's just got this magical feeling to it. And I did a couple readings with it, and I was like head over heels, you know? And it took, you know, I got this and it took like 3 weeks to get it. And then when I realized it was a fake, I didn't want to deal with it. It took another couple weeks to get this. I did a couple of readings. I was falling in love. And then one night I was, you know, as I sometimes do, I was putting the deck back in order. And I realized that there were 2 moon cards and there was no tower. Which is so stupid, you know. I mean, it happens, misprints happen all the time, but I thought, oh my god, maybe I'm not meant to have this deck. But of course I'd fallen head over heels in love with it by that point. And so I wrote to Little Red Tarot, and they said, we're so sorry, because they're awesome, by the way. We're so sorry, we're going to contact the Wild Unknown folks and we're going to get them to send you a replacement. And they did within days. But I was like, oh my god, I'm going out of town in a couple days. I need this deck. You know what I mean? So I then found a retailer in the United States. Actually, another YouTuber, Patrick from In the 78 Cards, has a shop not far in Vermont called A Little Mad. And they were selling the second edition, which I wish I had known initially, because I would have just, not that I don't like Little Red, but you know, I would obviously want the local one because it's easier to get. So I ordered another edition from them while I was waiting for the other card. I didn't know if they were going to send me a new deck or a new card. Wild Unknown basically overnighted me a new card. They sent me the tower. So now I have 2 copies of this deck, which is actually kind of good, because for all my moaning about like the hipsterness of it, and as much as people who don't like this deck really don't like it, it has become the deck I use the most. And a lot of people say that, and I don't know what it is about this deck, but it's a really special deck. I can understand why people don't like it, but my initial impulse that it was a lazy design was me being an idiot, because the quote unillustrated pips still have an energy that works, and I don't know what it is, but it's stunning. I like that there's no people in this deck. I don't know. I often talk about doing a tarot reading as like a magic eye poster. You know, remember those from the 90s? And you just wait for the image to kind of show you the, you know, fox or the whatever that you're supposed to see. I feel that way about this deck, except I'm like a magic eye poster. I don't need to sit there and stay. It just comes out. This deck just reads really easily for me, and it's actually encouraged me to start exploring decks that are non-traditional in terms of their structure or their illustrations. This is just a special deck. I don't know what it is about it, and a lot of people who are new to tarot are kind of afraid of it. But if you are looking for something unusual, it's about to come out in this mass market edition. There are a lot of retailers who still have the second edition. It just blows my mind with how well it reads. And that may be one reason why I haven't spent as much time with the Fountain Tarot and whatnot, because this deck has just it just grabbed me, and it won't let go. And I use it for myself, and I have a hard time reading for myself, as I've talked about in other videos. I don't find that with this deck, for the most part, and I love reading for other people. And it photographs really well. I actually always want to use it in my YouTube videos because the images are actually really easy to see, but I avoid using it in my videos because it is so non-traditional in so many ways. But gosh, I don't know. So, there's my weird journey into the wild unknown, but I'm so glad that I got there. And I'm so glad I got over my kind of crabbiness about the hipster crap, which I need to let go of, because it's so special. This is just a really special deck. And I like I said at the beginning, I don't have a lot of Oracle decks. There is the Animal Spirit Wild Unknown Animal Oracle deck. I may just have to get that because I feel like Kim Kranz's art is so just evocative. I just can't stop looking at it. I just always want to take this deck out and have it in my hands. I just want to hold this deck. Even if I'm not reading. I remember, when I was away recently, I just, I was watching some television and I just had the deck in my hands for some reason. I don't remember why. And I was just shuffling it. It just makes you want to spend time with it. I don't know. Anyway, this has become the deck I'm working with most right now. It has encouraged me to look at more non-traditional minors, which I always felt for a long time I couldn't read, but now I know I can because these definitely are. So I may now, after all these years, look at the Thoth deck, or the Thoth deck. I don't know how to pronounce it. Everyone does it differently. Because it has a similar energy to it. Although I don't, this deck sort of, it's very serious. Like the art is serious. It's not winky, but it reminds me of Edward Gorey, whose art is. You know what I mean? I don't know, but anyway, I don't know. So I may explore Thoth-based decks now, as a result of the Wild Unknown. But I really, really adore it, and I do not feel regretful that I didn't manage to get my hands on the first edition. In fact, I had an opportunity recently to get my hands on it for about $90. And now that I have 2 copies of the second edition, I said, you know what? No, I'm going to be happy with what I have. I don't need the first. I would love it, because I do love that back, but I don't mind this back. And when I do eventually get around to buying the Oracle deck, it matches, which I think is kind of cool. I'm curious to see what the mass market edition is going to look like, because this is not the same cardstock as the first edition, but it is some of the best cardstock ever. It's not like the Bohemian Gothic that I looked at earlier. It's not as flexible, although it does have some bend to it. It's just really thick and buttery and like, it's great. I love it. Oh my god. I just turned into my grandmother. So there's my long rambling video about how I've been spending my money and my time with tarot lately. I'm curious to hear what your favorite decks are, what you've been spending your money on, and what books you're reading, even if they're not tarot related. I'm aiming now to make myself take a break from spending money on tarot, because now I have this stack of decks that I have not spent time with, primarily because I'm spending so much time with this one. But anyway, I hope this was fun. A little journey into my mind and my money and my buying habits, and hopefully a distraction from this fucking election. And anyway, have a great week. I hope that you're relaxing and doing well, and I'll have something again for you soon.